All right. So, my name is Evan Strong, and I am the founder, let's get this a little bit straighter actually, of In the Image Clothing Company. Okay. So, we are a clothing company that is so much more than just a clothing company. We're called In the Image because we are universally designed in the image of our living God, who is Jesus Christ. Really, the basis of our company is how we cannot tell our bodies what to do, right? That goes for I, or he, or she. But the point with being called a clothing company is we're just allowing our bodies to get back to their natural workings, the way they were designed by our God before we altered them, whether it was unintentional or intentional through worldly things. And clothing is the only thing that's physically placed directly on our bodies at all times. So it's the only thing that has the potential to physically alter our bodies at all times. And it does. If it's imbalanced at all, it will. If it's made out of unnatural materials, it will. For I and he or she, meaning all humans. We live on a vertical globe, right? We have a center line. We have to stay straight up or we would fall over, or just be using excess stabilizing muscles in ways that the body is not designed to work to try to hold ourselves up, okay? And that's the state that most people are in, that I was in for a very long time. So we've got a few prerequisites that I have had since before we were officially a company, and that is just to lace your shoes with the technique found where you find In the Image Clothing Company anything. We have In the Image Clothing Company podcast. Our official domain is InTheImageClothingCompany.com. Today is the 2nd of October, 2024. It is not currently up and running today, but when you see this, depending on when that is, that's where you will go for all things In the Image Clothing Company related. So that technique needs to just be, paired with tying your shoes evenly over toward the inside, okay? All it does is just allow the shoe that you wear to fit on your foot like a glove to the best of that shoe's capability, okay? Because the foot only works how it does, right? There's the same amount of bones, tendons, ligaments, muscles in every single human foot, unless you really do have a unique foot. Those sprinklers just turned on, so these ones might also, but we do recognize our differences, right? People have deformities or injuries, surgeries that are different, but very unique to you, okay? But pairing that lacing with just removing the tags through everything, stemming inside of your shoes, normally they're in the tongues, and then through all the clothing you ever wear. I personally have made videos on each and every one of those tags in the locations they are placed in modern 2024 and what they do universally to the universal human design. The sprinklers just changed, and so they might change again. We'll see what happens. We'll just feel it out. But what I do want to talk about is pants, okay? I've talked about pants. I did a video where I titled it, I Discussed Jeans. It was almost a 40-minute video where I was actually talking fast, and I just went over one pair of jeans and what jeans are doing to the body. I was actually sitting down, which is very rare for me, and I had the jeans on this picnic table right over here. Yeah. So, anyway, I've talked about pants in that way. I've shown the modifications to do within pants that just are universally affecting all humans. Again, it is universal. This is truth that we speak on here at In the Image Clothing Company. It applies to all humans across the globe, no matter what gender or area of the globe or height or width. It's about the skeletal system of the body. I'm waiting for sprinklers. So, I've talked about jeans, I've talked about just pants in general, I've talked about what they do to the body, okay? I always talk about the waistline of pants, right, up off of the hips entirely, slightly higher in the front than in the rear. The universal human design, it only works how it works, right? But I want to hit a point on pants that's actually really affecting the feet, potentially. Okay, I always make the claims because they are true within our own situations, right? That we should not have to stretch unless something very major happens, and we should not have to work out or exercise to get up to a certain capability level because, again, within our own situations, our bodies are just designed to work, right? And the reason they aren't is because of our clothing and other things that I go into, but the clothing's the big one, right? So, when I've talked about pants, I've mentioned how in a lot of pant designs, you'll have like two sides, right? And then there's normally a seam right down around the center of the pants, like connecting the sides together. And almost always that right side will be stitched underneath the left. And then a lot of times it's just almost always really, it's just like a double stitch around the center, but the right side's underneath. So if you take this, right, being my pants, and now you come down to like the crotch of the pants, right? And that right side stitched underneath, then what it does is twist in a way, right? And there's also other things within designs that allow this to happen in pants. The point is, and again, look at it on your own pants or your children's pants if you're doing your children's laundry or whatever you want to look at. Don't take my word for anything that I say just because I'm saying something. We speak on universal truths. You can find this out yourself. But the pant leg on the right is just a little bit longer because of the stitch up here. As the leg goes down, that right pant leg, pant cuff around the ankle is going to be lower. And the reason that's a thing to even discuss is because I've talked about dorsiflexion of the feet, right? When you walk, dorsiflexion is when your toes come up, okay? This is plantar flexion, as if you're going to jump. Pushing down is plantar, and then if you're going to lift your toes up, that's dorsiflexion. Now, when you're walking, you have to dorsiflex your feet, right? I did an entire video on the natural human gait cycle, right? And I walked barefooted in the grass over here, shown that. The foot has to just do what it does. I did an entire video on the natural foot and ankle health and just the way that an arch grips with good healthy toenails, outsides of the feet, right? Slight bow up and out through the legs all the way up into a posterior tuck in the hip with internal rotation. I mean, I've gone into it and I've gone into it and I've gone into it, okay? Within both of my prerequisites, it's something to do with the shoes, right? The lacing technique, and then the tags start within the shoes. So the foot has to dorsiflex just because it does. That's how the foot works, and we don't get to tell it, right? So if your right pant cuff, just because the design of most all pants is lower than your left, there's more potential, we'll say, because it's important to say before I discuss any further, your pant legs should not sit on your feet. The cuffs of your pants should not sit on the top of your feet. Just as when I've talked about, like I did a video on the natural working hand, right? And the neutral wrist. Those are separate videos I've done. Sleeves should not sit on your hand. It will alter everything up here also. And your hand, forearm, everything, right? I always talk about how the body's connected, right? The hand is essentially the shoulder. The foot and ankle are essentially the hip. Everything has to stem from somewhere, so it's all connected. The body works as a whole. If we have pants on the tops of our feet, your foot cannot dorsiflex, okay? Because it'll sense something up there and be like thinking that there's something in the way, and then your natural good gripped arch internal rotation will go into collapsed arch external rotation, traveling up the entirety of your body. I'll wait for a second. So it just so happens, meaning not that it just so happens, but there's a correlation there, that the right side of the body is 85% of the globe's population is what they calculate, right, are right-handed, right hand dominant. People will use their right hand more than their left in about 80% of the population, 85% of the population of the earth. But there's reasons to that. Because again, if we are centered, we'd be pretty well ambidextrous, pretty well, right? But people are like this, toward the right in external rotation, okay? I've gone over in very great depth videos that are related to this. I did a video called There Is a Lot to Internal Rotation. Anytime I ever talk about shoelacing or tying, I I did a video called the dreaded collar seam that plays into the same patterning. I did a video titled your mid left back pain is actually your right shoelace, and I talked about the correlation there. I've talked about this patterning, and this patterning is within everything, right? Anything that I talk about within the hand, like the video where I said the pinky affects the entire body, the pinky finger affects the entire body. I went into that, how that plays into the same patterning because of flat things in the world. I've gone into it, and I've gone into it, and I've gone into it, and I've gone into it. Again, all undisputed universal truths. The point is, for this video, playing into that same patterning, when you do have anything on the tops of your gripped arch, to collapse it. That's why we remove the tag, right? Of the tongue of the shoe. You will collapse your arch into external rotation. That happens to be the longer pant cuff, the right side. That happens to be the same side that people are tying into external rotation within a right-handed dominant knot, right? That happens to be the same side that people are using the most because it's falling, right? I always talk about internal rotation being a gripped, turned inward, elevated in a sense, really just getting you to your natural position, okay? Elevated from your collapsed external rotation position is what I mean. So if you're falling into external rotation on this side, you're not going to try to reach with this arm that's clear back here. This is very exaggerated in most all cases, but it'll be kind of slightly like this. This arm has a better mechanical ability in its position that it's been forced to be in to reach, yet it's behind this arm falling into external rotation. So the point is that right pant cuff, because of the stitching within most all pants, is lower. Sitting on your foot on the right side, collapsing your arch, further ingraining the same patterning as many of these things I've mentioned here, and more things that I have talked about in other videos, and more than that, okay? Within universal clothing designs, within universal human beings' experiences across the entirety of the globe, okay? Universal truths. So, don't allow, if you have any say in it whatsoever, your pants to sit on the tops of your feet, and especially, we just don't want imbalances, right? I mean, when I say especially, that's not necessarily even like amplified more than what I said before that, but it's just, we need to allow our bodies to do the only thing that they do. I always say we cannot tell our bodies what to do. You can think that you're doing that all you want and then have fun with your foam roller and your stretching routines. That's what I always say, right? But this goes for I or he or she, meaning just all humans ever. The body only works how it works. So, yes, the point is, this patterning that I'm talking about, these universal truths, it's no claim of mine, no claim of In The Image Clothing Companies. This happens, and it happens, and it happens, and again, I can describe it to where there is no dispute. But we just, most people, as I, for so long, we didn't know these things. So now that I've been given the understanding of this, we're sharing it as a community that is In The Image Clothing Company, right? So, yes, there is a discrepancy there because of the stitching of pants, and it happens. Don't take my word for anything. Try it on your own body. Look at other humans. Again, it applies across the entirety of the globe. Always the things that we discuss here as universal truths, okay? So, yes, keep your pants off of your feet. And also understand that if you do start lacing and tying your shoes evenly, there's many things within clothing that are still imbalanced, right? That are playing into the same patterning. So if it doesn't feel correct, well, first of all, I've talked about the bound up parts of the body that will just need some adjustment back to normal, neutral, and natural, right? But then also, there are still things within clothing in modern designs that if you aren't aware of, they are still imbalanced, okay? So, yes, today is the 2nd of October, 2024. My name is Evan Strong. This is In The Image Clothing Company. I am the founder. We do have our official domain that is InTheImageClothingCompany.com. That's what it will always be, but as of today's date, it's still being, created. So that's where you will go though for all things. We do have In the Image Clothing Company podcast. We will have clothing available when that comes. It will always be made out of 100% natural materials, allowing the body to work in the universal human design, regardless of gender, size, weight, height, universal human design, skeletal system wise, right? Pants will always, within our designs, we will incorporate the ability for pants to sit above the hips, slightly higher in the front than in the rear, and the shoulder seams, the top ones will sit behind the shoulders, and the ones right at the edges will be right at the edges. I have many videos, somewhere right around 100 videos, and they're real videos. I mean, somewhere between 15 minutes and an hour, long videos, real videos, discussing sometimes just the natural workings of the human body by itself. Sometimes those videos are free modifications you can make within your own clothing, and then just a lot of discussion, right? And within the podcast, a lot of times I mentioned we might only within certain podcast episodes just be talking about the gospel of Jesus Christ, because that's what this is all founded on. That's the whole goal and focus and intent around and in the Image Clothing Company, is just to allow the body to get back to or stay how our living God designed it to work, okay? So that's the whole point about getting this company big and broad and spreading this, is just to allow, that. We didn't design it, we can't tell it what to do, but it does do it very well. It meaning all the things that it does do within our own situations, right? When it's not being restricted. And there's so much happening within modern clothing design and modern worldly things that we are taking part in, that we also mention here at In the Image Clothing Company, because again, the whole point is the body. It's not about us selling clothing, right? So, thank you. Check us out at In the Image Clothing Company in all places you could find that. And yeah, just be aware of your pant cuffs, especially at least here in Utah, right? It's been summer. Like I said, the date, it's now fall. So it's going to start cooling down more to where we're going to be wearing long pants. Almost universally, all humans will have long pants on just about every day. And yes, so those things that I mentioned in this video are happening. You have no say in it. I have no say in it. So we need to be aware, because it doesn't just alter your feet, but your feet are your body's foundation. So it's altering the entirety of your body from there up, right? On an earth with gravity. So thank you. And yeah, just be aware of that. We have a lot of free modifications that you can make within the pants you already have. Go check out our information, okay? Yes. Cool. Pants. Again, try to wear 100% natural material pants if you can, if and when. Try to. That will, that's a problem in itself, but that's kind of going to like amplify the effect, because also if they're stretchy and then one's sitting on the top of your foot, and then when you bend your knees or whatever, like it just amplifies everything. Also, if you have stretch within any item of clothing, period, stretching is just unnatural. You rarely would ever find anything that is even possibly stretchy at all in nature, and your body wouldn't be like encapsulated in something stretchy within nature, right? So yes, just try to keep your pants off of your ankles, off of your feet, and then you can just go straight, right? And because you have to. I don't get to tell you anything other than I can tell you, I always say this, right? I can tell you how your body works, because we are universally designed. Now, I mean, if you are just very unique, then that's okay. But I'm not speaking to situations that I don't know, but there is a universal human design within people that, have the body operating as, a whole, right? So, yeah. It's fine if you don't have parts of your body. I mean, it's fine if you don't even have a foot to worry about discrepancies in pant legs. Then just keep the one that you do have off of your foot. And then if you have, whatever going on the other side, just try to keep your pant legs even. It's not about having both feet. It's fine if you don't, but it's about what it's doing to any feet that you do have, or anything that could possibly be within your own situation, right? So yes, anyway, because what'll happen is you'll go to dorsiflex your foot and there's going to be a pant leg in the way, and your foot's going to go into external rotation. Your shoulders will follow, your pelvis will follow anterior, your head will follow, your neck will follow, and then it's also imbalanced a little bit to where, yeah, your entire body's affected, okay? So I just want to feel it out, make sure that I'm saying everything that I need to say. I tried to stop it and I felt like there was more to say. But yes, I mean, we do have a video. I don't actually know which video it's in, unless it was just called How Pants Affect Body Mechanics. I think that's what it was, where I showed a modification to do within the fly of pants, because that's going to kind of play into the same thing. There's a, behind the zipper within pants with a zipper, that little flap, there's a stitch that's about 1 centimeter long that I'd show a modification on how to just cut that out. So it still is protecting you from the zipper, but then it's not closing off that left pant leg to where it's altering your lower body anyway. Yes. Because there's also other things like the zipper I've talked about before. Zippers have to interlock. That's how they work. So one side has to be on top of the other, which is right on your hips, on your pelvis, potentially just twisting your pelvis. Because your pelvis cannot go up and down one side or the other. If it does, it'll actually twist, because again, both your feet are on the ground and you have to stay some way. So I mean, if my pelvis were to just go up or down, well, my foot couldn't even touch the ground. And so what it'll do is, if it's trying to do that, it'll then twist. So now one of your legs will be more bent than the other one. And you'll pretty much always have weight on only one leg. You can't actually have an even pelvis and have a hip hike. That's probably a whole video in itself. But if your hip does hike, it has to twist so that you're still on the ground, right? Because if you can still walk, or even if you're just sitting, like you're in a wheelchair, you don't even have legs. If your hips are uneven, they are rotated, and then it's twisting your entire spine and everything up, right? So again, maybe that's why I kind of went further into this video, because it's not some claim about little tiny like discrepancy in length in pant cuffs affects you and I have an opinion on it. No, I can go into it, right? It's happening to all humans, every single one of you, and no, I'm not apart from anybody else, right? We're all equals, but it's happening to us. And I just want to make sure that I explain it to the point where it's not just some picky thing, right? That's how I don't stretch, is because I just stop restricting my body, and I'm trying to just give all the information I can for others to do the same thing, okay? So, I still feel like there might be more to say. Because yeah, if you can't dorsiflex, like I was saying about if something's not working, if that dorsiflex cannot happen on that right foot, something else and many things compensate. So now you're like feeling it in your back, you're feeling it in your shoulders, you're feeling it in your neck. You're having knee pain now because again, the pelvis will rotate and like twist. It won't just, there's a lot going on within the body. Everything affects everything within the body because it works as a whole. So yeah, because it'll drop your right shoulder, right? If you picture pointing your right foot, your shoulder's going to go with it. I did an entire video on how driving affects body mechanics like a vehicle, right? I went into both manual transmissions with a clutch and automatic cars where you're just using your right foot. Same patterning, everything's playing into the same patterning, but it's not like we can then just start to like live life out of this patterning, because again, we have to stay centered because there is gravity pulling us straight down, okay? And we have a sternum, we have a spine, we have a nose, we have two sides of our bodies. Again, even if yours is slightly different, I mean, these things do still apply to a degree, no matter how your body looks. I mean, if you don't even have any limbs, right? There's still things within like I was saying, the zipper, I mean, if you have something around your waist, even if like, right, I mean, it just always applies. It doesn't exclude anybody. Nothing that we talk about does. So, I mean, unless we're just talking about shoes only and you don't have any feet. But I don't know. I just want to be so like raw, so real about this, that a lot of these things we do talk about, they might seem weird if you have not heard about them, but they are universal truths, okay? So, thank you. I'm going to wrap it up with that. I wanted to be very clear. Again, each thing that I do talk about, if I'm talking about it, I have things to say on it, as far as I can discuss it and describe it to where it is undisputed truth, okay? We're not just claiming something, we're not being extra particular, but if you want your body to operate, that's what we do here at In The Image Clothing Company, is show how to allow it to, okay? So, thank you. Still kind of sitting on it. I still feel like there might be something else to say, but I've talked about before how human beings are almost always on their left foot, right? To actually fully get weight on your leg, it has to be, as you can see here, internally rotated. Okay, to activate the glute medius, to activate those inner adductors in the way they're actually supposed to work, right? To have a gripped arch, your foot turns inward, and you have to be internally rotated to even actually stand fully in like a real way on one of your feet. So stemming with just tying your shoes toward the right, and I went over that at the beginning, that will already not allow you to actually ever stand on your right foot. You can try, but you're like this, and this is not on your right foot. This is actually from the position where my foot was placed when I started that. This would actually be on my right foot. Right? I just wanted to go down like that in like a descending pistol squat to show like that's the position you'd have to be to actually be on your right foot. And so when I say things like people aren't actually on their right feet, rarely ever can people even do it properly the way the body's designed, that's what I mean. Okay, again, I can go into it, but I just will, I guess. I mean, that's the point. That's why this video keeps getting longer. I'm not trying to make a claim, okay? This is truth, universal truth, how the body works. So, the point is, if you're not allowed to grip the arch because there's a pant cuff, then you're never actually on that right foot, okay? All right, that's good. Thank you. Thank you. Again, my name is Evan Strong. I am the founder of In The Image Clothing Company. Check us out. Thank you.